Hey, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's still a few people joining. Welcome to our town hall. My name is John Humphrey. I'm the chairman of the Tort Claimants Committee. Um, we're not going to have a long meeting tonight, but there's been a lot we've been working on. We were preparing for tonight. I was reflecting that just about a year ago, we started our mediation process, and the kickoff of that process was each member of the TCC telling their story to the mediators, and it was a very difficult and moving time, and I think it set the tone for the things that we've been fighting for a little over the last year. And tonight, I'm going to ask Doug to talk a little bit about some of the non-monetary things that we are working on. We thought we were going to be able to announce some big things tonight, but as complications would have it, there's still some opinions that are weighing in on those topics. So we're working through the night, and eventually we will turn this over to Jim, and he'll give you an update on what's going on. But you need to know that there's a lot of moving parts, and by that I mean there's the constituents, that's the TCC. There are other groups that have constituencies. There's the local councils, which actually are not in bankruptcy. There's the BSA National, the sponsoring organizations, the pension plan. All of these things factor into the settlement that we've been trying to work on. So, and because we have been in mediation, all of that conversation is confidential. In the event that the Boy Scouts are able to file a document in the next couple of days called an RSA, and Jim will tell you a little bit more about that, then that data and that information will be public. So just stay tuned. We will probably be doing another town hall tomorrow night, if in fact that does get filed tonight or sometime tomorrow afternoon. So with that, I'll turn it over to Doug. And Doug, could you just add your flavor on what you've been seeing?
Sure. Thanks, John. And I just want to acknowledge to everyone out there that if you're feeling a little frustrated because there isn't more news, we share in that frustration. And we thought it best to have a town hall tonight. As John mentioned, we think there's going to be some breaking news relatively quickly. So please check the website. And we might be coming right back tomorrow night to share further details that Jim's going to talk about. But one thing I did want to do as well was also thank, on behalf of John and I, all the members of the TCC. The other 7 men have literally put their lives on hold the last month and have been on numerous phone calls at the last second, night after night. And we just want everyone to understand that there's a role of many people that are also claimants in this process as well. 2 issues, though, I do want to mention that we haven't forgotten are related to what we call non-monetary demands. The money, of course, is a huge issue. We know that, but also these non-monetary demands, specifically the status of what the Boy Scouts call the ineligible volunteer files that they hold that have not seen the light of day. We're working on their appropriate release, and we're also working on a robust youth protection program and process to continually monitor and improve youth protection within the Boy Scouts. Those are works in progress, and when we have something more definite, we're going to talk about that. But we know that's very, very important to people so that we can assure that there will not be continued abuse moving forward, and there's also transparency with those files as appropriately. So if any of those people are still out in public and serving other organizations, those names will see the light of day. So more to report on that. With that, I'll turn it back to Jim.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, John. Just to echo what John and Doug said, I think in the last 2 weeks, the TCC members as a whole, convening meetings, have probably spent close to 200 person hours. I think last week we had meetings every evening that lasted at least 2 hours each day. And that doesn't include my calling John and Doug, sometimes literally as they're going to bed to say, well, what about this? And so these two men and their 7 other committee members have turned their lives upside down to address the issues that are in the Boy Scout bankruptcy case. So I'm going to talk a little bit about process now, because that's what we are going through, a process. And so let me just start with some terminology. The Boy Scouts intend by tonight, midnight Delaware time, to file something called a restructuring support agreement, which we refer to as an RSA. The RSA is an agreement, and I'll describe in a moment who are parties to that agreement, is an agreement on how the plan process will proceed. It has, in itself, the RSA doesn't say much except we like what's attached and we will support what is attached, and we won't work against it. Thus the word support. The RSA has a couple of attachments. The first is a plan term sheet. Think of this as a detailed outline of what the plan of reorganization is going to say. It deals with everything from production of documents, a la what Doug was just talking about in terms of IV files and treatment of disclosures. It talks about who's going to get paid for people who are trade creditors, the people that publish the books and are owed rent. It deals with people who were hurt in the ordinary course, if you will, of a scouting experience, a broken leg, someone who was hurt crossing a river. Tragically, they've had deaths. They deal with those kinds of claims. The term sheet will deal, of course, with the abuse claims and kind of a host of other things, but mostly about how creditors are treated. Attached to the term sheet is something called trust distribution procedures. This document is, in a sense, a subset of the term sheet, because the term sheet discusses how abuse claims are going to be treated. And the trust distribution procedures go to that issue. So there are 2 ways that abuse claims are going to be valued, because I think I could say this almost to every single person who filed a proof of claim. Your claim does not have a dollar amount associated with it that is the result of a jury trial or a judge trial or a finalized settlement. You have a dollar amount attached to your claim because your attorneys, or you, if you're not represented, have assessed what your claim is worth. But it has not been valued in a formal sense by a court or by a settlement with the Boy Scouts. The trust distribution procedures anticipate 2 ways of putting a value to your claim. One is a mechanism for you to go to court. I've been using the expression lately, Oklahoma land rush. For those of you that remember your history lessons, it's when everyone lined up at the line in Oklahoma and they were told at the drop of a flag, you could go out and grab your 640 acres, and literally thousands of people stood on that line. And then when the flag dropped, they went rushing across. There's going to be a litigation option, but it's not going to be an Oklahoma land rush option. When I say it's not going to be, that's what the negotiations anticipate. The other means of valuing your claim is to go through a process that is not a judicial process in the sense of having a trial, but looks at your claim, establishes certain baseline values, and then adjusts the claim for its merits or for its insufficiencies. And that's what a trust distribution procedure is, how those 2 mechanisms work. For those of you who have focused on some of the legal issues in this case, the TDP will also address how statutes of limitation in your particular state are handled. Because some states do not have a statute of limitations for the injuries you suffered, and but most do. And the ones that do have a statute of limitations, they're not consistent. There are 50 plus jurisdictions involved in this case because we have territories beyond the states, and they're all different. So you have the terms, you have the restructuring support agreement, which says, for the people who sign it, we support the plan outlined in the term sheet, and the trust distribution procedures are an expansion on an aspect of the term sheet. The last document is a trust agreement. The Boy Scout plan, and no one really argues about this part. The Boy Scout plan takes all of the insurance policies that the Boy Scouts are a party to, and also the local councils, and assigns them to a trust. So that in effect, the new insured is the BSA settlement trust. That is done because one of the goals of this case is to reach global fair value settlements with the insurance companies. And as part of those settlements, if we are ever to have any, we don't have any now, folks, but if we are to ever have any, the insurance companies will want to have certainty that they are walking away from these claims in exchange for what they pay. And you can't have 84,000 people having a veto over that. And so the trust will have the claims assigned to it. And if there are ever settlements with the insurance companies, the term sheet and the trust agreement will dictate how those settlements are ultimately approved. So we have been working at mediations in the last 3 weeks. Probably we're in day 12. We went from, and by the way, we should be expected to do this hard work, at least we the professionals. I'm not crying myself a river here, but we were in mediations from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 8 o'clock last night. We reconvened this morning at 9. People are still turning versions of these documents. And the Tort Claimants Committee is meeting at 5:30 today to review the latest versions. All of the state court lawyers representing Tort Claimants Committee members have been very engaged in this negotiation process. The coalition, whose lawyers represent 60,000 of you, have been very involved in all of these negotiations. And everyone has worked very hard to blend, as best we can, the different perspectives on this case. But all but 5,000 of you are represented by lawyers. It's a lot of lawyers to get into a room, even when it's a Zoom room, and to try to reach consensus. No one is happy right now. The Boy Scouts aren't happy. The TCC has some very difficult issues it will be facing this evening. The coalition has been facing very difficult issues. Our goal is to get something that's workable for you, that does not entail years and years of more litigation. At least we're going to try to minimize that, because we want to do two things here. We want to get children protected. 3 things. We want what I'll call moral accountability by the Boy Scouts in terms of recognizing what they did or failed to do. and we want to get you fair compensation. And we are very sensitive to the demographic of the constituency, both by age, health, financial condition, and all the other factors that drive people to say, when is this going to be over? So that is the chore we have ahead of us this evening. The Boy Scouts currently have a court hearing set for July 20th and 21st. What is driving the timetable for the restructuring support agreement and these other documents, the term sheet, the trust distribution procedures, and the trust agreement, is that they must file a motion for approval of the restructuring support agreement by midnight tonight in order to preserve the July 20th and 21st dates. They want to preserve the July 20th and 21st dates because they are looking for a confirmation hearing in, I think, the third week of September. And they're not going to be able to pull that off. Confirmation hearing, meaning approval of their plan, after you all have had a chance to vote on it. They will not be able to meet that milestone if they don't get their disclosure statement approved at the July 20th, 21st hearing. And they're not going to get to the July 20th to 21st hearing if they don't file their RSA tonight. I several times I've referenced this support agreement, and I haven't actually told you who would be a party to it. So let me do that. The Boy Scouts are a party to it. I do believe something will be filed. So I'm going to make it sound like it's a done deal. The TCC hasn't decided yet, but something's going to get filed tonight. The Boy Scouts will be a party to it. The ad hoc committee of local councils will be a party to it. The coalition is meeting at 5 o'clock tonight. If it approves the RSA, it will be a party to it by the signatures of the lawyers who make up the lawyer part of the coalition. The TCC, if it approves the restructuring support agreement this evening, will be a party to it. And as parties, what we agree to is to try to get a plan confirmed along the lines of the term sheet, the trust distribution procedures, and the trust agreement. So when Doug and John said, tune in tomorrow for more information, I believe these documents will have been filed with the court. Again, I'm not telling you who are all going to be the signatories to it, but there will be a document filed with the court, is my expectation, that will have these documents. They're very detailed. And tomorrow we can walk through with you at an appropriate level of detail what these documents say and what we think they mean to abuse survivors. So John and Doug, that's what I've got tonight.
Thanks, Jim. So stay tuned. There's a lot of work ahead of us tonight. Got the coffee on the brew. And, there's still some really, really big issues we need to tackle tonight. So if you think about us, and we will report back tomorrow. So good night, everybody. Have a good evening.
Good night.